Good night, dear listeners. Our journey today invites you to go to the very depths of human history, to those times when the world was full of secrets and inventions were ahead of their time. We will dive into the world of vanished ancient technologies, where brilliant discoveries were born, flourished, and then sometimes disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a whisper of guesses and surprise. Imagine an old volume, the pages of which have turned yellow with age. You slowly leaf through it, and each page reveals amazing information about long-gone eras. There is no rush, no fuss, only a calm immersion in long-forgotten knowledge. Perhaps you imagine yourself in an ancient library where the air is filled with the smell of old paper and the wisdom of the ages, and where each volume holds untold stories. We often tend to think that technical progress is a continuous, ascending line, where each new invention logically follows the previous one. However, history, like a wise old man, knows many examples when the greatest discoveries were made and then, for various reasons, lost to posterity. Entire branches of knowledge and production methods disappeared, as if dissolved in time, leaving us, modern people, perplexed. How could the ancient Egyptians move multi-ton blocks? How did the Romans build structures that stand for thousands of years, while our concrete deteriorates after centuries? What secrets did the masters keep, creating blades that, according to legend, could cut silk in the air? Our story today is not only meant to tell you about amazing inventions, but also to help you completely relax and find peace. Each story will be unhurried, full of details that will allow your imagination to create vivid but calm images. We will slowly reveal each secret, giving your mind time to immerse itself in it before we move on to the next. Let your mind wander slowly through the corridors of ancient workshops. Inhale the scents of forgotten materials. Hear the muffled sounds of hammer and fire. Imagine yourself next to the brilliant inventors and craftsmen who created wonders that were hundreds, if not thousands of years ahead of their time. We will talk about Greek fire, which burned even on water, Roman concrete, which lasted for 2,000 years, Damascus steel, whose blades were legendary, and even flexible glass, which, according to legend, was so perfect that it had to be destroyed. Then we will move on to mechanisms. The Antiquity mechanism, an ancient computer, the steam engine of Heron of Alexandria, the water organs of Ctesibius, and even self-propelled chariots. Finally, we will look into the secrets of megalithic structures, colored pigments, and much more. Prepare to be immersed in a world where the walls hold the secrets of millennia, where the silence is filled with echoes of the past, into a world of vanished ancient technologies. Now that you are completely relaxed and your breathing is smooth and calm, we are ready to set off on our first amazing adventure. We begin our immersion into the world of vanished technologies with one of the most mysterious and destructive substances of antiquity: Greek fire. Imagine a flame that not only does not go out in water, but on the contrary, flares up on its surface with renewed vigor, sowing panic and terror among enemies. This secret was one of the cornerstones of the power of the Byzantine Empire, the successor of the Roman Empire in the East, which existed for more than 1,000 years, from the 4th to the 15th century. In those distant times when Constantinople, today's Istanbul, was the greatest and richest city in Europe, The Byzantine Empire was constantly threatened by Arab fleets seeking to conquer this impregnable fortress. The city's defense largely depended on naval forces, and it was here that Greek fire played a decisive role. Its first known use dates back to the 7th century, when, during the siege of Constantinople by the Arab fleet, the Byzantines used this miraculous weapon to burn enemy ships right out of the water. Legend has it that the recipe for Greek fire was discovered by a Syrian engineer named Callinicus from Heliopolis around 672. He brought his secret to Emperor Constantine IV. The essence of its use was to shoot a flammable mixture from special devices called siphons, which were installed on the bows of Byzantine ships. Imagine a picture of a naval battle. The ships are approaching, and suddenly a fiery stream bursts out of the bow of a Byzantine vessel, which, falling on the water, does not go out but continues to burn, devouring enemy ships. The psychological effect of such a weapon was colossal. Enemy sailors, seeing a flame that cannot be extinguished by water, were terrified and often fled. To this day, the exact composition of Greek fire remains one of the great mysteries of history. There are many theories, but none of them are universally accepted or fully confirmed. The most common hypotheses suggest that the mixture was based on petroleum or crude oil, possibly mixed with ingredients such as quicklime, which reacts violently with water, releasing heat and igniting flammable materials. Other possible ingredients include sulfur, resin, animal fat, tree resin, or even potassium nitrate, known as saltpeter. Perhaps the secret lay not only in the composition, but also in a special method of preparation, or in the design of the siphon itself, which could mix the ingredients just before release. The secret of Greek fire was so important to the survival of the Byzantine Empire that it was closely guarded. The recipe was passed down orally from emperor to trusted confidants and was apparently never written down. This allowed the monopoly on the weapon to be maintained for many centuries. However, it was this secrecy that ultimately led to its complete oblivion. After the decline and final fall of the Byzantine Empire in 1453, when the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople, the secret of Greek fire was lost forever. Perhaps the last guardians of the knowledge perished, or perhaps there was simply no one who could fully understand and reproduce this complex technology in the devastated conditions. In our days, scientists and historians have made numerous attempts to recreate Greek fire based on ancient descriptions and theoretical knowledge of chemical reactions. Some experiments have led to the creation of mixtures with some similar properties, but none of them have been able to fully replicate the effectiveness and inextinguishability that were attributed to the original Greek fire. This only confirms the uniqueness and genius of the ancient secret, which has forever remained in the past. Let this image of fiery jets burning on the sea surface slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of an ancient flame lost in time take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. After thinking about a flame that cannot be extinguished by water, we move on to another marvel of ancient engineering, the material that gave the Roman Empire its immortality in stone. We are talking about Roman concrete, or as it was called, opus caementitium. It was not just a mortar, it was the secret of durability that allowed the Romans to build monumental structures that still stand today, thousands of years later. Imagine the grandeur of the Roman civilization. Aqueducts stretching for miles, bridges spanning turbulent rivers, huge domes of temples like the Pantheon, grand amphitheaters like the Colosseum, and entire port structures that could withstand the onslaught of sea waves. All these structures are striking not only in their scale and beauty, but also in their incredible resistance to time. Compare this with modern concrete, which often begins to deteriorate after 100 or 200 years, requiring constant repair. Roman concrete retained its properties for 2,000 years or more. What was this amazing secret? The key ingredient that distinguished Roman concrete from more primitive mortars was pozzolana. This is a special type of volcanic ash, named after the area of Puzioli in Italy, where it was mined in abundance. Pozzolana, mixed with lime and water, as well as stones and broken bricks as aggregate, entered into a unique chemical reaction. Unlike ordinary lime, which hardens only in air, pozzolana gave concrete hydraulic properties, that is, the ability to harden even underwater. This is why the Romans were able to build their incredible ports and breakwaters right in the seawater. Modern research reveals even more astonishing properties of Roman concrete. Scientists have discovered that the material has the ability to self-heal. When microcracks appeared in it, water seeping through them reacted with certain components of the concrete, forming new minerals that filled these cracks. This made concrete not just durable, but actually a living material, capable of restoring itself over time. Imagine a building material that only becomes stronger and more resilient over time, rather than deteriorating. There are many examples of the use of Roman concrete. Take the Pantheon in Rome. Its enormous dome, built in the early 2nd century, is the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. It is over 43 meters in diameter and remains an engineering marvel. Roman ports, such as those at Caesarea and Ostia, used concrete blocks that were immersed in seawater to become even stronger. The aqueducts that supplied water to Roman cities were also built using this material, ensuring a continuous supply for centuries. So, why was this brilliant secret lost? After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century and the subsequent period of fragmentation and warfare, much of the knowledge was forgotten. Large-scale construction ceased, and the need for such a durable material disappeared. The recipes were likely passed down orally among builders, and without constant practice and the ability to mine pozzolana, this knowledge gradually disappeared. European builders did not rediscover the principles of hydraulic cement until the 18th century, nearly 1,500 years later. Today, as we grapple with the challenges of crumbling infrastructure and seek ways to create more sustainable and durable materials, modern engineers are once again turning to Roman methods. They are studying ancient samples, trying to decipher their chemical composition in order to create a new generation of concrete that can match the strength and durability of its ancient predecessors. It reminds us of the cyclical nature of knowledge and the valuable lessons that antiquity can teach us. Let this image of solid, 1,000-year-old structures slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the stability and reliability of ancient structures that continue to stand, defying time. Let this story of the lost secret of durability take you to a world of deep and peaceful sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breathing.
Let this image of shimmering, patterned blades holding the secrets of centuries slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of ancient craftsmanship, lost in time, take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of incredibly strong blades, we are transported to another, perhaps the most mysterious and almost mythical technology of antiquity, the flexible glass known as vitrium flexile. It is a tale that seems too incredible to be true, but it has come down to us from reliable ancient sources, such as the works of Pliny the Elder, the great Roman naturalist of the 1st century AD. Imagine a world where glass is a fragile material that easily breaks into thousands of pieces. Now imagine an inventor brings the Roman Emperor Tiberius, who ruled in the 1st century, a cup made of a material that looks like glass but has amazing flexibility and unbreakable properties. According to legend, the inventor demonstratively threw the cup on the floor and it did not break, but only got dented. Then he easily straightened it out, returning it to its original shape. This story sounds like a description of a modern polymer, but it takes place almost 2,000 years ago. Such properties of the miraculous material could have turned the world upside down, revolutionizing the production of dishes, windows, and jewelry. It would have been incredibly valuable, surpassing even gold and silver in practicality. But instead of being greeted with delight and implemented into production, the inventor was executed, and his secret, if it really existed, was destroyed. Why did Emperor Tiberius make such a cruel decision? According to Pliny, his motives were purely economic. The emperor, being a pragmatic ruler, was afraid. He feared that if a material like flexible and unbreakable glass became available, it would devalue gold and silver, undermine the Roman Empire's precious metals-based economy, and lead to chaos. Imagine a world where luxury goods, symbols of status, suddenly became cheap and available to everyone. This could destroy the established order. Tiberius may also have wanted to maintain the monopoly on luxury and control over trade that gave him power. Of course, the lack of archaeological evidence of flexible glass raises doubts among many modern scientists. Not a single fragment of such material has been found to date. This has given rise to many theories about the composition of this mysterious substance. Perhaps it was a special type of borosilicate glass, which is more resistant to thermal and mechanical stress than ordinary sodium glass. Or it was some kind of composite material, combining glass with other elements, which gave it unusual properties. Some even suggest that it could have been an early type of polymer, or some kind of alloy that was misleading in its appearance. This legend, although unproven, has deep philosophical significance. It reminds us of how often political and economic interests can stand in the way of scientific and technological progress. Sometimes the greatest inventions are not developed not because of a lack of knowledge, but because of fear of the changes they might bring. Humanity's dream of unbreakable, eternal glass lives on to this day, and modern technology is only now beginning to approach what may have been available to the ancients.
Let this image of a fragile yet amazingly resilient bowl slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of lost wonder and human fears take you to a world of serene sleep where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. We leave the world of mysterious materials and move on to mechanisms that are astonishing in their complexity and seem completely unthinkable for their time. Our next dive takes us to the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, to the shores of the Greek island of Antiquity, where at the beginning of the 20th century, around 1901, one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries of all time took place.
Imagine Greek sponge divers diving into the depths and finding a sunken Roman shipwreck from the 1st century BCE. Among the debris and artifacts covered in marine sediment, they discover a strange bronze object that initially appeared to be just a piece of corroded stone or wood. No one could have guessed that inside this inconspicuous object was a highly complex mechanical device that would change our understanding of the technological capabilities of the ancient Greeks. It was only decades later, through the painstaking work of scientists and the use of cutting-edge technology such as X-rays and CT scans, that the secret of the Antiquity mechanism was revealed. It is an incredibly complex set of more than 30 bronze gears that were once housed in a wooden case measuring approximately 30 by 18 by 10 centimeters, comparable to a large book. The mechanism was essentially an analog computer of its time, designed for astronomical calculations. Its functions were astonishing. It could predict the positions of the sun and moon in the sky, show the phases of the moon, and calculate solar and lunar eclipses. Moreover, its dials displayed various calendars, including Egyptian and Greek local calendars. Some researchers even believe that it could track the movements of the planets known at the time: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. It also had a sports calendar that predicted the dates of the ancient Olympic Games and other major sporting events. The level of sophistication of this mechanism is more than 1,000 years ahead of its time. Nothing like it was created until the 18th century, when the first complex mechanical clock appeared. This discovery forced historians and scientists to reconsider their ideas about the technological capabilities of the ancient world. If such a mechanism was created, it means that there was a developed tradition of precision engineering and deep astronomical knowledge that we had not previously suspected. The question remains: who could have created this marvel? Possible authors include such great minds as Archimedes, the legendary mathematician and inventor who lived in the 3rd century BC, or Posidonius, a philosopher and astronomer from Rhodes who was known for his knowledge of mechanics. Perhaps it was the work of a whole group of talented Alexandrian scientists and craftsmen whose names remain unknown. So why was this amazing mechanism unique and forgotten? Perhaps it was a one-off, a prototype or demonstration model of sorts that never saw widespread use. Perhaps the fall of the Roman Empire led to the decline of sophisticated science and crafts, and the principles that underpinned its creation were lost. The world entered a period when such complex machines were no longer in demand, or there simply weren't enough craftsmen to reproduce them.
The significance of the Antiquity mechanism for modern science is enormous. It serves as a powerful reminder that ancient civilizations were capable of far more sophisticated technological achievements than we have come to believe. It challenges our assumptions about the linearity of progress and opens up new horizons for the study of lost knowledge. Let this image of a complex bronze device, slowly turning its gears in the depths of time, dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of an ancient computer found in the depths of the sea take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breathing. From the complex mechanical computer, we move on to principles that could have changed the world, but remain mere curiosities. Our next discovery concerns Heron of Alexandria, a great engineer and mathematician who lived in the 1st century AD. This amazing scientist, who worked in the greatest intellectual center of antiquity, Alexandria in Egypt, was the author of many inventions, many of which were ahead of their time by thousands of years. Imagine a small sphere suspended so that it can rotate freely. From this sphere emerge two curved tubes pointing in opposite directions. Below the sphere is a cauldron of boiling water. As the water boils, steam rises into the sphere and rushes out through the tubes, creating a jet thrust that causes the sphere to rotate rapidly. This device, known as an heliopile, is nothing less than a prototype of a steam engine. Heron described it in his work, Pneumatics. The heliopile was not Heron's only astounding invention. He also designed automatic temple doors that opened with the help of steam and counterweights when a fire was lit on the altar. He created mechanisms for theatrical performances that imitated the movements of figures or sounds. His inventions even included a wind organ that used wind power to produce music, and various devices that ran on compressed air or water. Heron was a pioneer in the field of automation, and his works show a deep understanding of the laws of physics. So why did such a revolutionary invention as the steam engine not develop in ancient times? There are several reasons for this. First, there was no economic need for mass production. In the ancient world, especially in the Roman Empire, the main driving force of production was slave labor. Cheap and numerous labor made mechanization unnecessary or economically unprofitable. There was no incentive to create complex machines that could replace manual labor. Second, the heliopile's low efficiency as a practical device. It was more of a toy or a demonstration of the principles of jet propulsion and steam than a powerful engine. Its design was not intended to do serious work, such as driving mills or pumps. Perhaps ancient minds simply did not see how this technology could be scaled up for practical use. It is breathtaking to think about this missed opportunity. What if the principles of the steam engine had been developed 1,500 years ago? The world might have gone through the Industrial Revolution 1,500 years earlier. History as we know it might have been completely different. The ancient world had all the knowledge necessary to create complex machines and understand the basic principles of energy, but the socio-economic conditions did not support their widespread implementation and development. Let this image of a slowly rotating sphere releasing steam dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of an ancient invention that was not developed take you to a world of serene sleep where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath.
From the world of unused steam principles, we are taken to another Alexandrian genius who lived several centuries earlier than Heron. This is Ctesibius of Alexandria, who lived around the 3rd century BCE and is considered the father of pneumatics and hydraulics. His inventions, although not always intended for practical use in the modern sense, demonstrate an astonishing understanding of the mechanics of liquids and gases. One of his most remarkable inventions was the hydraulos, or water organ. Imagine a world where there were no electric pumps or powerful compressors, and musical instruments using air typically relied on manual pumping. Ctesibius found an elegant solution to create the steady, continuous flow of air needed to produce organ sound. He used water to regulate the air pressure. The device consisted of a pump that pumped air into a chamber partially filled with water. As the air entered, it displaced the water
and the column of water, in turn, created a constant, even pressure on the air, feeding it into the organ pipes. Thus, the hydraulis produced a smooth, powerful sound, superior in quality to other wind instruments of the time. This invention demonstrated astonishing innovation for its time. Cettibius developed complex valve systems that allowed air to be redirected to different pipes, creating different notes. He invented piston pumps that were much more efficient than primitive bellows. His work anticipated many of the principles that later formed the basis of pneumatic and hydraulic systems, as well as musical instruments. This was not just the creation of a toy, it was a profound understanding of physical laws and their practical application. The hydraulis quickly gained popularity. It was widely used in the Roman Empire, being an indispensable attribute of circus performances, theatrical productions, gladiator fights, and holidays. Its powerful and unique sound captivated listeners. However, like many other complex technologies of antiquity, after the fall of the Roman Empire and during periods of decline in culture and crafts, the knowledge of creating and maintaining the hydraulis was lost. The construction of such complex instruments required highly skilled craftsmen and access to certain materials, which became impossible in the conditions of fragmentation. However, the principles laid down by Cettibius did not disappear without a trace. His works, although partially, survived thanks to other ancient authors, and his ideas inspired later inventors. The water organ, in fact, became the forerunner of the modern pneumatic organ, and its history reminds us that even the most seemingly entertaining inventions can contain fundamental scientific principles that can change the world. Let this image of an ancient water organ filling the space with extraordinary sounds slowly dissolve in your consciousness. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of the music of water and air take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath.
From the world of ancient hydraulics and pneumatics, we come to an idea that seems incredibly modern, but whose roots go back to ancient times. Imagine a self-propelled machine that could move without visible force, without animal or human control. It is a concept that has fascinated inventors since the earliest times, as exemplified by the self-propelled chariots described by ancient authors. In the writings of engineers and mechanics such as Philo of Byzantium, who lived in the 3rd century BCE, or the already familiar Heron of Alexandria, who lived in the 1st century CE, there are descriptions or references to devices capable of moving independently. Although no precise drawings of self-driving chariots in our modern sense of a car or train have survived, these references suggest the existence of simpler mechanisms capable of autonomous movement. The proposed design of such mechanisms could have been based on the use of a system of gears, cords, weights, or even water. For example, the simplest version could have used a falling weight that slowly unwound a cord connected to the axles of the chariot through a gear system. Or, as in other inventions of Heron, it could have been water. Water flowing from a reservoir would have set in motion paddles or gears, which in turn would have transmitted the motion to the wheels. Such mechanisms were most likely small in size and intended for display rather than for transporting people or goods. Sources indicate that such automatons could have been used in religious ceremonies or theatrical performances. Imagine how, as if by magic, A statue or a small cart would begin to move in the temple, creating the impression of a divine miracle. This would strike the imagination of the spectators and strengthen faith. Perhaps some of these devices were part of a complex system of temple mechanics designed to create impressive effects. However, as with Heron's steam engine, there was a technological barrier and a lack of practical need for such inventions to be widely developed. The ancient world had neither the materials, nor the methods of mass production, nor the economic incentives to create complex autonomous machines. Slave labor was cheap and available, and complex mechanical devices were expensive to produce and maintain, and their efficiency was extremely low for real-world needs. Therefore, such inventions remained more curious curiosities and demonstrations of engineering genius than harbingers of the Industrial Revolution. However, this idea shows a deep human desire for automation since ancient times. The desire to create a mechanism that would work on its own, without constant human intervention, was inherent in our ancestors. This desire, although not fully realized in ancient times, laid the foundation for future scientific discoveries and technological breakthroughs. Let this image of a quietly moving, mysterious chariot dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of an ancient autopilot, not widely used, take you to a world of serene sleep where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of bizarre mechanical devices, we are transported to the gigantic structures that illuminated the path of ancient sailors and served as symbols of the greatness of civilizations. We are talking about the lighthouses of the ancient world, the pinnacle of engineering thought, among which was, of course, the legendary Pharos Lighthouse of Alexandria.
The most famous of these was the Pharos Lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was built on the island of Pharos, at the entrance to the harbor of Alexandria, Egypt, around the 3rd century BC. Its height, according to various estimates, was between 120 and 150 meters, which was astonishing for that time. Imagine such a colossus towering over the sea. Its construction took about 20 years. The engineering solutions used in its construction were incredibly complex. The lighthouse was built of light-colored stone, possibly marble, and consisted of 3 tiers. The lower tier was square, the middle one octagonal, and the upper one cylindrical. At the very top was a huge observation platform where a fire burned during the day and a powerful light source at night. Legends say that inside the lighthouse there were complex mechanisms for lifting fuel and perhaps even a system of mirrors or lenses that greatly increased the light, making it visible at a distance of up to 50 kilometers. Imagine this powerful beam of light piercing the darkness of the night, showing the way to lost ships. The Pharos Lighthouse was not the only one, although it was the most famous. Other ancient civilizations also built lighthouses, although less grandiose ones, such as those in Rhodes and Sicily. These structures played a critical role in the development of maritime trade and the safety of navigation. They allowed ships to enter harbors safely at night or in bad weather, which significantly reduced the number of shipwrecks and contributed to the prosperity of trade. So why did these technological marvels disappear? The main reasons were natural disasters such as earthquakes, which gradually destroyed these gigantic structures over the centuries. The Pharos Lighthouse was severely damaged by several earthquakes in the 14th century and finally destroyed. In addition, lack of constant maintenance and wars also contributed to their oblivion. Over time, the knowledge of the construction and operation of such large-scale reflective systems was lost, and only much later,
In the Middle Ages and in modern times did humanity return to the construction of complex lighthouses. The importance of ancient lighthouses is hard to overstate. They were symbols of progress, safety and power, demonstrating man's ability to conquer the elements and light the way into the unknown. Their disappearance reminds us of the fragility of human achievement in the face of nature and time. Let this image of a powerful light cutting through the night sea slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of ancient lighthouses that illuminated the way and disappeared in time take you to a world of a serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of grandiose lighthouses, we are transported to the east, to ancient Japan, to the era known as the Kofun period. This time, from approximately 250 to 538 AD, was the period of the formation of the first states on the Japanese islands. It left behind not only huge earthen mounds, kofun, which served as burial vaults for the nobility, but also the mysteries of amazing metalworking skills. Imagine a warrior of that era, clad in armor and wielding a sword. These swords and armor, found in Kofun tombs, demonstrate the astonishing quality of the sheet metal. The metal was so thin and strong, and the blades so sharp, that modern researchers still debate the methods that allowed ancient Japanese blacksmiths to achieve such perfection.
The secret may have been in a special honing technique, or precision grinding and sharpening, or unique hardening and surface treatment methods. Imagine a blacksmith repeatedly heating and hammering the metal to achieve the perfect carbon distribution, then using secret liquids or cooling methods to temper it, giving the metal incredible hardness while maintaining flexibility. They may have also used specific abrasives for finishing, which allowed them to create a perfectly smooth and sharp edge. Some researchers suggest that mystical rituals and beliefs may have been mixed into these processes, giving the weapon not only physical, but also spiritual power. These metalworking techniques were the pinnacle of craftsmanship in their time. Swords made using this technology had exceptional cutting power and durability, making them formidable weapons in the hands of warriors. So why was this highly developed technology forgotten? The reasons may be different. Perhaps with the advent of Buddhism and the increasing cultural influence of China and Korea in the following centuries, some of the old craft traditions and schools of blacksmiths gradually disappeared or were transformed. Perhaps the demands for weapons and armor changed, or perhaps the secrets of production were passed on in narrow family circles and were lost due to wars, disease, or lack of successors. Modern metallurgists and blacksmiths, studying the artifacts of the Kofun period, are attempting to unravel the secret of the ancient Japanese masters. They analyze the chemical composition of the metal, its microstructure, trying to reproduce the conditions and processes that could have led to the creation of such an amazing material. However, a complete repetition of all the properties of ancient products still remains a challenge. This story reminds us how fragile knowledge can be when passed down from generation to generation, and how easily it can disappear without continuity of practice and learning. In the stillness of the night, let yourself imagine the ancient forges where these legendary blades were created in the light of the fire. Let this image of a gleaming, perfectly sharpened blade slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of ancient Japanese craftsmanship, lost in time, take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of mysterious Japanese blades, we are transported to one of the most vibrant and ancient places on Earth, ancient Egypt. Imagine majestic temples and burial chambers decorated with incredibly vivid and bright frescoes. What is especially striking is that these paints, applied to stone thousands of years ago,
have retained their original freshness and brightness to this day, despite the scorching desert sun and centuries-old dampness of the tombs. This is a mystery that still evokes admiration and questions among modern chemists and restorers.
One of the most famous and striking pigments was the so-called Egyptian blue, an artificial pigment that is considered to be one of the first synthetic pigments in history. It was obtained by heating a mixture of quartz sand, copper or copper ore, lime, and alkali to high temperatures, approximately 800 to 1000 degrees Celsius. The result was a blue frit, which was then ground into powder. This pigment not only had a beautiful color, but was also extremely resistant to light and moisture. Beyond the pigment formulations themselves, the ancient Egyptians likely used sophisticated surface preparation and application techniques. Walls might be coated with a thin layer of primer, perhaps gypsum or lime-based, which created an ideal base for paint. Pigment binders might include egg whites, animal glue, gums, or resins, which provided a strong bond to the surface and protected the color. Their techniques allowed the paints to withstand millennia of environmental exposure while remaining remarkably vibrant. So why was this secret lost? After the decline of ancient Egypt and the change of cultural and political eras, the arrival of the Greeks, Romans, and then other peoples, the traditions and knowledge of Egyptian craftsmen gradually disappeared. The methods that were passed down from generation to generation were not always written down, and with the disappearance of temple schools and workshops, the secrets dissolved into history. Perhaps the preferences in materials changed, or the extraction of certain minerals became difficult. Modern chemists and restorers around the world continue to study ancient Egyptian paints, trying to understand their composition and application methods. Despite all our modern technology, fully reproducing the same durability and vibrancy of ancient Egyptian frescoes remains a challenge. This reminds us that the ancient masters possessed a profound knowledge that we are only beginning to rediscover. Let this image of bright and eternal colors decorating ancient temples slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story about the mystery of ancient pigments lost in time take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of exquisite ancient pigments, we are transported to one of the most impressive and mysterious categories of ancient structures, the dolmens and megalithic structures. These gigantic stone structures, scattered all over the world, from Europe to Asia, from Africa to America, challenge our understanding of the technological capabilities of ancient people. Imagine Stonehenge in England, where massive stones, some weighing up to 45 tons, were moved dozens of kilometers and set upright in a complex circle, or the Carnac stones in France, where thousands of menhirs stand in rows, and countless dolmens, structures made of several upright stones capped by one or more horizontal slabs that served as burial or ritual chambers. These structures were built between 5000 and 3000 BCE, when there were no wheels, as we know them, no draft animals in sufficient numbers, and certainly no cranes or heavy construction equipment.
The main problem with the logistics of these megaliths is how ancient people using only primitive tools, could move and install these multi-ton stones over vast distances and lift them to heights of several meters. This required incredible organization, coordination, and a deep understanding of physical principles. There are several theories about the construction. The most common ones involve the use of inclined ramps that were gradually built up as the stone was lifted. Imagine thousands of people manually dragging a huge stone up such a ramp using ropes and wooden rollers. Or there may have been systems of levers that slowly lifted and moved the stones. Some theories include the use of water, for example, to create slippery surfaces, or even floating transport through canals. However, even the simplest methods required a huge amount of human resources and a long time. Symbolism and purpose. These megaliths also remain the subject of heated debate. Many of them, especially cromlechs, such as Stonehenge, are considered astronomical observatories, oriented to the solstices and equinoxes. Others clearly served as burial chambers for nobles, while others were ritual sites for ceremonies and worship. They were centers of life and death, places of power and connection to cosmic cycles. Loss of knowledge. The construction of megaliths occurred with the disappearance or transformation of the cultures that built them. Perhaps the secrets were passed on in narrow circles of priests or chieftains, and after their departure, these methods were forgotten. Climate change, the arrival of new peoples, the development of new technologies and religions, all this could have contributed to the oblivion of ancient building practices. Modern scientists and enthusiasts conduct experiments trying to reproduce the methods of building megaliths, and each time they are convinced of the complexity of this task. This makes us even more amazed by the ancient peoples who, seemingly with bare hands, created structures that defy the centuries. Let this image of huge, mysterious stones standing in the wind slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story about the mysteries of lifting huge stones take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of mysterious dolmens and questions about the movement of giant stones, we move on to an even more revolutionary but controversial hypothesis. It suggests that some of the most monumental prehistoric structures may have been created not by the heavy lifting and raising of huge blocks, but by using some kind of forgotten cement or geopolymer. Imagine that the stones used to build parts of the Egyptian pyramids or the South American megalithic structures, for example, were not actually cut from quarries, but were cast on site, much like we cast concrete today. This bold theory, actively promoted by the French scholar Joseph Davidovits since the late 19th century, challenges conventional wisdom about archaeology. What is a geopolymer? These are materials that can be created from natural minerals such as clay, limestone, or ash by reacting chemically with alkaline solutions. This reaction produces a hard, rock-like material that is essentially synthetic stone. If ancient people knew how to mix certain types of crushed rock with water and binders, they could pour this mixture into formwork
allowing it to harden and form blocks of the desired shape and size, right on site.
There are various pieces of evidence to support this hypothesis, although they are still hotly debated in the scientific community. For example, some researchers point to the microstructure of individual stones in ancient structures, which they believe is different from natural stone and shows signs of artificial hardening, such as the presence of air bubbles or organic inclusions. They also sometimes point to the lack of obvious traces of tool processing on some surfaces, as well as perfectly fitted but irregularly shaped blocks that would seem impossible to cut or transport. However, it is important to note that this theory is highly controversial among archaeologists and geologists. Many scientists believe that the majority of the evidence points to traditional construction methods, cutting, transporting, and lifting stones. They point out that the geopolymer theory does not explain all aspects of the construction, and that the anomalies found may be explained by natural processes or ancient processing methods that we do not yet fully understand. However, if the theory is even partially correct, it could dramatically change our understanding of ancient building techniques. It would show that our ancestors had knowledge of the chemistry of materials that we are only just beginning to rediscover. It would be an entirely different approach to construction, allowing monumental structures to be created with less physical effort, using what is essentially a form of stone casting. Let this image of ancient builders, perhaps not just lifting, but also casting their giant stones, slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of forgotten cement and the secrets of prehistoric buildings take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of material mysteries associated with stone and its processing, we are transported to an even more subtle and elusive form of ancient knowledge, to the acoustic architecture of ancient temples. Imagine that the walls of a seemingly ordinary ancient structure could transform sound in such a way that it became mystical, almost supernatural. This amazing feature has been observed in many ancient structures around the world, from underground sanctuaries in Malta, such as the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, to some Mayan pyramids in Central America, and even ancient burial mounds in Ireland. In these places, sound behaved in a completely unusual way. Whispers could be heard over great distances. Individual sounds resonated, creating a deep hum, or conversely, certain frequencies were completely absorbed. Imagine a priest speaking a word or chanting a mantra in the semi-darkness of an ancient temple. And this sound, instead of simply dissipating, begins to resonate with the room itself, amplifying, returning as an echo, creating the feeling that the space itself is vibrating in time with the voice. The purpose of creating such effects was most likely deeply religious and ritualistic. It was a powerful means of influencing parishioners, a way to create the effect of the presence of divine power, to strengthen prayers and ceremonies. Perhaps with the help of such acoustic tricks, priests could create the illusion of the voice of the gods, or sacred hum, that immersed people in a state of trance. The methods by which ancient architects achieved these effects are still not fully understood. They probably used a deep knowledge of the shape of the room, its volume, the height of the ceilings, and the materials from which the walls and floors were built. Certain curves of the walls, the placement of niches, the use of stones with different properties,
All of this could have been part of a complex approach to sound control. Unfortunately, there are virtually no written sources about these architectural principles, which makes them even more difficult to decipher. The knowledge was most likely passed on orally, from master to apprentice, and was part of a sacred or craft tradition. Reasons for oblivion. This acoustic science is rooted in changing religious practices, the destruction of many ancient buildings, and the loss of building traditions themselves. Over time, as ancient cultures declined and new ones took their place, this subtle knowledge may have simply been forgotten or lost. Modern researchers, using acoustic modeling and measurements, are trying to recreate and understand the principles behind these ancient sound effects. This not only allows us to gain a deeper insight into the world of ancient rituals, but also inspires modern architects to create spaces with unique acoustic properties. Let this image of sounds resonating in ancient walls slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of sounds of ancient temples lost in time take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of invisible acoustic mysteries, we move on to physical evidence of astonishing precision that still puzzles modern engineers and archaeologists. We are talking about ancient stone-cutting machines, methods that allowed our ancestors to create perfectly flat surfaces, right angles, and precise cuts on stones, as if they were using modern laser cutters. Imagine basalt or granite blocks found in Egypt, or the incredibly tightly fitted stones of Peru and Bolivia. Some of these stones have perfectly smooth surfaces and right angles that cannot be explained by the use of primitive copper or bronze tools. It looks as if giant saws or drills cut through the hardest rocks with incredible precision, leaving behind smooth, polished cuts. Sometimes such cuts can be seen with the finest parallel grooves, which may indicate the use of a rotating tool, similar to a modern circular saw. Traditional archaeology involves the use of copper saws with abrasives, such as quartz sand. Think of a long copper plate that was driven across the stone, constantly adding a hard abrasive between it and the stone. Or drill pipes that, again using an abrasive, bored out cylindrical holes. However, the effectiveness of such methods in creating such large-scale and precise works has been debated for thousands of years. Achieving such precision would require tools that have not survived, or methods that we cannot fully replicate.
One of the most famous mysteries is the polygonal masonry of South America, such as Sacsayhuaman or Machu Picchu. Here, huge, irregularly shaped stones are fitted together with such incredible precision that it is impossible to insert even a knife blade between them, and all this without the use of any mortar. This requires not only a perfect cut, but also the most precise fit of each unique stone to its neighbor. These perfectly executed stone works are silent witnesses to lost knowledge. They challenge our ideas about the capabilities of ancient people and make us wonder how many more technological secrets are hidden in the depths of history. Perhaps our ancestors had knowledge that surpassed our own in certain areas,
and we are only just beginning to realize it. Let this image of perfectly even stone cuts keeping the mysteries of centuries slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of precision that raises questions take you to a world of serene sleep where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of amazing precision stone cutting, we are transported to another, no less mysterious area of ancient knowledge, the use of mirrors and lenses. Imagine a world where there were no telescopes or microscopes in our understanding, but optical devices already existed that were capable of creating real miracles, almost beyond reality. One of the most famous and perhaps mythical stories about ancient optics is the legend of Archimedes, the great Greek mathematician, physicist, and engineer who lived in the 3rd century BC. According to legend, during the siege of his hometown of Syracuse by the Roman navy, Archimedes created burning mirrors. These were, according to one version, huge polished shields or concave mirrors that, by concentrating the sun's rays, could ignite Roman ships from a distance. Picture the scene: enemy ships approaching, and then, under the influence of an invisible force, burst into bright flames. Although modern scientists dispute the practical feasibility of such a large-scale device, this legend speaks of the belief in the existence of powerful optical instruments. However, archaeological finds confirm that lenses existed in ancient times. For example, lenses made of rock crystal or glass were found in ancient Roman tombs and could have been used for a variety of purposes. They may have been primitive magnifying glasses for magnifying small details, which helped jewelry or scribes, or they could have been used to light a fire by concentrating the sun's rays, which was much more convenient than rubbing sticks together. Imagine being able to easily light a fire at any time using only sunlight and a small piece of polished glass. There is also a theory that mirrors and lenses may have been used in ancient temples to create special effects. They may have been used to illuminate deep, dark rooms where daylight did not reach, or to create illusions by reflecting images or light in certain places. This may have been part of rituals designed to surprise and impress worshippers, creating an atmosphere of mystery and divine intervention. So why were the technologies for making and mass-producing high-quality optical instruments lost for centuries? There are several reasons. Perhaps the knowledge was highly specialized and passed on to very limited circles of craftsmen or scientists. With the fall of great empires and the decline of scientific centers, such as Alexandria, much of this knowledge simply disappeared. In addition, the creation of high-quality lenses and mirrors required a high level of skill in processing materials and an understanding of optics, which was difficult to maintain without constant practice and demand.
Modern attempts to recreate Archimedes' mirrors have not yet been completely successful on the scale described by the legend. But the finds of ancient lenses confirm that our ancestors had far more advanced knowledge of optics than we are accustomed to thinking. These objects are small windows into the world of ancient engineering and fantasy, reminding us of man's eternal quest to understand and control light. Let this image of sparkling mirrors and lenses collecting sunlight into mysterious rays slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you.
Let this story of the optics of fantasy, lost in time, take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the world of ancient optics and the mysteries of light, we descend even deeper underground, into the world of ancient miners. Imagine that thousands of years ago, long before the invention of steam engines and electricity, people were already penetrating incredible depths in search of precious metals and minerals. These were not just pits, but entire underground cities of labor, the scale of which is astounding. Consider, for example, the ancient copper mines at places like Ain Tima in modern-day Jordan, or the copper and gold mines in ancient Egypt and Nubia that we have already mentioned. Copper mining, as well as other metals such as gold, silver, and tin, began in the Neolithic era and then reached enormous proportions in the Bronze and Iron Ages. Some ancient mines went tens or even hundreds of meters deep. Imagine the effort required to create such workings, to combat cave-ins, to provide ventilation and lighting. Extraction methods were, of course, primitive by modern standards, but surprisingly effective. One of the main methods for splitting hard rock was the use of fire. Workers lit a fire directly next to the rock, then quickly cooled it with water. The temperature difference caused the stone to crack, and it could be chipped away with stone hammers, bronze or copper, and later iron picks and chisels. For lighting, oil lamps or torches were used, which gave only a dim light but allowed work in complete darkness. Ventilation systems were also primitive but vital. Some mines show evidence of vertical shafts and horizontal passages used to create a natural draft that allowed air to circulate, or bellows were used to pump fresh air. Transporting and lifting the ore to the surface was extremely labor-intensive. Workers used baskets, leather bags, and perhaps primitive winches, all pulled by hand. Imagine an endless chain of people passing baskets of rock from the depths to the surface in dusty, hot, and stuffy conditions. So, why were some of these large mines abandoned and forgotten? There may be several reasons. The main one is the depletion of ore reserves in specific veins. When mining became unprofitable, the mine was simply abandoned. Changes in metal mining and processing technologies, the emergence of new, richer deposits in other regions also had an effect. Over time, these mines became overgrown, collapsed, or filled with water, and their location was forgotten.
These ancient mines are silent witnesses to the incredible tenacity and ingenuity of our ancestors, who were willing to work in the most extreme conditions for precious metals. They remind us of the price humanity has paid for its progress and how deep we were willing to go into the bowels of the earth in search of resources. Let this image of ancient mines, deep and mysterious, slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of ancient miners, lost in time, take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. From the depths of ancient mines, we rise to one of the most intriguing and controversial finds, which may indicate that ancient people may have had knowledge of electricity, the so-called Baghdad Battery. Imagine an archaeological expedition in the outskirts of Baghdad, the capital of modern Iraq, in 1936. During the excavations, a very unusual artifact was discovered. A small clay vessel about 14 centimeters high. Inside this vessel was a copper cylinder, and inside the copper cylinder, an iron rod. All of this was sealed with an asphalt plug. The find itself was interesting, but it was German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig, who studied the artifact in 1938, who put forward a bold theory about its functionality. He suggested that the vessel could have been an ancient galvanic battery. If an acidic liquid, such as vinegar, lemon juice, or wine, were poured into the vessel, an electrochemical reaction would occur between the copper cylinder and the iron rod, capable of generating a small electrical voltage. Subsequent experiments with replicas of this battery showed that it was indeed capable of producing from 0.8 to 2 volts of electrical current. The main question is, what could ancient people have used such a device for if it really was a battery? There are several theories. One of the most popular is galvanization, which is the process of coating one metal with another more valuable metal, such as gold or silver. Imagine how you could create the illusion of a gold object using only the thinnest layer of the precious metal. Other theories suggest medical use, such as pain relief through electrical stimulation, or decorative use, perhaps to add shine to statues or jewelry. However, like many other mysterious technologies, the lack of widespread use of this battery remains a stumbling block to its acceptance as evidence of ancient electricity. If the ancients did know about electricity, why is there no other, more obvious evidence of its use in their daily lives or large-scale projects? Why have other, more powerful or numerous batteries not been found? This has led to debate among scholars, with many considering the Baghdad battery to be simply a vessel for storing scrolls or other materials rather than a source of electricity. However, the mystery of the lost knowledge remains. Perhaps it was just a single experiment that was never developed, or it was knowledge that was deliberately hidden and used in very narrow circles, for example by priests to create miracles. The story of the Baghdad battery makes us think about how much we still do not know about the technological achievements of ancient civilizations, and that even the most incredible assumptions can have a real basis.
Let this image of invisible streams of water carrying life and purity through ancient cities slowly dissolve in your mind. Feel the coolness of the night and the deep peace that envelops you. Let this story of invisible arteries of civilizations lost in time take you to a world of serene sleep, where the whisper of centuries merges with your breath. Our amazing journey through the world of vanished ancient technologies has come to an end. We have walked through the millennia, touching upon the greatest mysteries and most astonishing inventions ever created by the human mind. We have seen flames that do not go out in water, concrete that lasts 2,000 years, blades that cut silk, and mechanisms that predict the movements of the stars. We have been reflecting on how ancient civilizations, without modern equipment, created wonders that still leave us in awe and bewilderment. From the most fundamental materials, such as metals and mortar, to complex optical devices and hidden engineering systems, all of this bears witness to the amazing ingenuity of our ancestors. These stories remind us that progress is not always linear. Knowledge can be born, flourish, and then, for a variety of reasons, wars, natural disasters, changing social conditions, or simply being forgotten, disappear, only to be rediscovered centuries or even millennia later. We are only just beginning to realize how many more amazing inventions may have been lost forever. Buried forever under the sands of time, the world of ancient technology is full of unsolved mysteries, and many of them are still waiting to be discovered.
Let this journey into the echoes of forgotten geniuses fill your mind with serenity and deep peace. Feel inspired by these stories, realizing that the human spirit has always strived to learn, create, and overcome the impossible. Now that you are completely relaxed and your breathing is even and deep, allow these wonderful images to slowly dissolve into your consciousness. You are in a world of deep calm, where all the sounds of the outside world fade away and time slows down. Let your mind fall into a light slumber. Let your dreams be deep and serene, filled with images of ancient wonders, mysteries, and eternal secrets. Open your mind to the amazing discoveries that are still waiting for their time, even when you are resting. Good night, dear listeners. Sleep soundly and sweetly.